The 1980s looked squeaky clean. Big hair, Saturday morning cartoons, sitcoms with canned laughter. But what if I told you some TV episodes vanished without a trace? Networks pulled the plug. Parents freaked out. Entire storylines erased like they never existed. One day you see your favorite show. The next, an episode is gone. Was it too scary, too real, or just too much for prime time? And even today, those missing 80s TV episodes are shrouded in rumor and outrage. Let's dive back and uncover the stories nobody wanted you to see. Until now. 1. Diff'rent Strokes, The Bicycle Man, 1983. To most people, Diff'rent Strokes was the very definition of wholesome family comedy. Viewers tuned in for Arnold's catchphrase, "What you talking about, Willis?" and lighthearted sitcom hijinks. But in 1983, the series aired a two-part episode that took a turn into nightmare territory. The Bicycle Man centers on Arnold and his friend Dudley, who meet a charming bike shop owner named Mr. Horton. At first, Horton seems friendly, giving the boys free treats and comic books. But as the episode unfolds, the tone becomes sinister. Horton offers them alcohol, shows them pornographic magazines, and tries to lure them into disturbing situations. NBC aired the episode as a very special warning to children, but the backlash was immediate. Parents were horrified to see such dark themes in a family sitcom. Critics debated whether it was groundbreaking or exploitative. Some stations refused to air reruns, and for years the episode was treated like a ghost story. For kids who saw it live, it was unforgettable. Many recalled being terrified, confused, or even traumatized. Adults today often say it was the first time television forced them to confront a terrifying reality, that predators could look friendly and normal. Decades later, the episode is available on DVD sets, and in retrospect, it's praised for being bold enough to confront a real issue most shows ignored. But that doesn't erase the uncomfortable experience of watching Diff'rent Strokes transform from a laugh track sitcom into a horror story overnight. 2. G.I. Joe, The Invaders, 1985. If you grew up in the 80s, G.I. Joe was the king of Saturday morning. Soldiers battling Cobra, explosions that somehow never hurt anyone, and moral lessons at the end of each episode. But one storyline went too far for the censors. The Invaders featured plotlines involving drug use, paranoia, and psychological manipulation. Cobra wasn't just firing lasers anymore. They were infecting minds, turning allies into addicts and betrayers. Parents complained that it was too real, and some stations yanked it off the air. For years, fans remembered whispers of the missing G.I. Joe episode. Some swore it never existed. Others had VHS tapes proving otherwise. Eventually, the episode resurfaced online through collectors and archivists, confirming that yes, G.I. Joe had once stepped way over the line of acceptable kids' programming. Watching it now, it's surreal. The same cartoon that usually ended with "and knowing is half the battle" instead left kids with a vision of a society poisoned from the inside out. It's no wonder parents freaked. 3. Married, with Children, I'll See You in Court, 1989. By the late 80s, Married, with Children had become Fox's crown jewel of controversy. The Bundys were crude, dysfunctional, and endlessly offensive, the complete opposite of squeaky clean sitcom families like the Huxtables. But one episode pushed Fox over the edge. I'll See You in Court features the Bundys and their neighbors, the Rhodes, accidentally recording themselves in sexual escapades at a seedy motel. The plot was ridiculous, but executives felt it was borderline pornographic for primetime television. They refused to air it. For years, rumors of the Lost Bundy episode floated around. Fans wondered if it was an urban legend. Then, in the early 2000s, FX finally aired it. Today, you can find it online. And compared to modern shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it feels pretty tame. But in 1989, it was a scandal too hot for broadcast. What's fascinating is how its banning only fueled the show's rebellious reputation. Fox built its empire on being the edgy network. And Married, with Children became a symbol of TV daring to be offensive. I'll See You in Court is the perfect example of that spirit. 4. Doctor Who, The Happiness Patrol, 1988. While most of our list is American TV, across the pond, Doctor Who was fighting its own battles. By 1988, the once-beloved sci-fi series was struggling with ratings and relevance. Then came The Happiness Patrol. In this three-part story, the Doctor lands on a planet ruled by Helen A., a dictator who has outlawed sadness. Citizens must smile constantly or face death by terrifying clowns, and a monster made entirely of candy called the Candyman. On the surface, it's surreal and goofy, but many viewers saw something darker. Helen A was widely interpreted as a parody of British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and critics accused the BBC of smuggling politics into a children's show. Some broadcasters refused to re-air it. Watching it today, it feels like a bizarre fever dream. Candy monsters, fascist clowns, and forced happiness. But underneath the camp, it's a chilling satire of authoritarianism. The Happiness Patrol remains one of the strangest and most controversial episodes in the history of Doctor Who. 5. Saturday Night Live. Charles Rocket F-Bomb. 1981. Live TV is unpredictable, and nothing proves that more than SNL's infamous Charles Rocket incident. In 1981, after a parody sketch of Dallas where Rocket was shot, he was asked how he felt. With a grin, he casually dropped the F-word live on air. I'd like to know who the expletive did it. The fallout was immediate. NBC banned reruns of that episode, Rocket was fired, and the show entered one of its darkest eras. The incident remains legendary in SNL lore, proof that one slip could sink a career. Clips survive online thanks to bootlegs, but you won't find it in official collections. To this day, it stands as one of the most shocking moments in live television history. 6. The Day After. 1983. Not all banned media was fiction. The Day After, ABC's 1983 TV movie, depicted nuclear war hitting the American Midwest. The results were horrifying. Families vaporized, cities destroyed, and survivors left in apocalyptic ruin. Over 100 million people watched it live. The next day, schools held therapy sessions for traumatized students. President Reagan admitted in his diary that the film shook him to his core, influencing his later push for nuclear disarmament talks with the Soviet Union. ABC never re-aired it for years, fearing the backlash. For many who lived through it, the movie felt more like a national event than a piece of entertainment. Today, you can find it on DVD and streaming. But back in 1983, The Day After was closer to a televised nightmare than a movie. 7. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The Problem with Power. 1985. For most kids, He-Man was safe, colorful fun. But in The Problem with Power, Skeletor tricks He-Man into thinking he killed someone. Crushed with guilt, He-Man throws down his sword, ready to give up being a hero forever. For children who idolized him, this was devastating. The strongest man in the universe, brought to tears, questioning his own morality. Parents complained, some stations pulled it, and for years it became one of the least seen episodes. Looking back, it's a fascinating example of 80s cartoons occasionally daring to be profound. But for the kids who watched it expecting sword fights and Skeletor jokes, it was pure nightmare fuel. 8. Hammerman. Defeated. 1991. Though technically early 90s, Hammerman was born from pure 80s cartoon culture. A celebrity tie-in, a goofy premise, and Saturday morning vibes. But one episode, Defeated, tried to tackle gang violence head-on. Characters were lured into gangs, faced brutal consequences, and the tone shifted from goofy rap superheroics to grim social commentary. Parents hated it. Networks pulled it. The episode vanished almost instantly. Today, only fragments survive, making it one of the hardest lost 80s-style episodes to track down. What makes these banned 80s episodes so fascinating isn't just what's on the screen. It's the mythology that grew around them. Kids who saw them live wondered if they imagined it. Fans hunted down recordings, sharing them in secret. The very act of being forbidden made them unforgettable. The 80s were the golden age of TV experiments. Networks pushed boundaries, sometimes too far, and the result is a collection of episodes that live in a strange space between history and legend. Some shocking, some silly, all unforgettable, because in television, sometimes the stories you can't see are the ones you remember forever.